Hey, what is going on, guys? This is DK, back at you with another video here today in the 4-game CSGO main slate on Monday. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, my name's DK. I make daily videos breaking down NBA, NFL, and esports daily fantasy sports slates, esports including Call of Duty, League of Legends, and this one, Counter-Strike CSGO. So with that out of the way, let's jump into the video. We'll also just want to bring this up. We'll also have a video up for the late slate. That'll be a separate video, but we have a 3-game late slate, so that'll be up right after this as well. All right, before we get in players and their prices, let's take a look at the odds real quick. And another thing I want to bring up too is these are all best of 1 games. So when you're, on normal slates, and the best of 3s, you kind of look to value plays. You're hoping for 2-0s. Again, we're not going to get that. So, that makes value options, those really cheap guys a little bit tougher to get to on the slate. But the prices on the top guys did drop a little bit as well. So just thought I'd bring that up. Yeah, we have Vitality versus Ents. Vitality are minus 160 favorites. Mousesports versus Dignitas. Mousesports are surprisingly the biggest favorites of the day at minus 215. I don't know if I agree with that. They've been terrible recently. And they are looking bad once again versus Navi today. I think they're about to lose 3-1 in a best of 5. So I don't know if I agree with those odds. We have Astralis versus NIP. Astralis are slight favorites at minus 135. We have 2 new members to Astralis, so I get why that one's almost a pick 'em. And then we have Fnatic versus Mad Lions. Fnatic are minus 145 favorites. So all 4 of these games are actually be pretty close if we're just looking at the odds. Now let's talk about players and their prices. So we have Alou at the top here at 8.6K for Ents. I think he makes for a pretty good spend up. Maybe a little bit more of a contrarian spend up just because they played Vitality recently and did not look good. So I think for that reason, the flocks are going to go to the Vitality side and kind of ignore this end side. I think you're going to Alou at probably a quarter of the ownership to a guy like a Zywoo on the opposite side. So if you're looking to kind of differentiate yourself in tournaments, I could see going to Alou over a guy like Zywoo if you want to try to differentiate yourself in tournaments. The other options here: Sergey, Jampy, Sunny, and Ariel. Don't know if we have to get to any of them. Jampy was a guy that was really popular. I mentioned it in my video on Saturday. That those Ents guys were going to be really popular because how bad NIP were. I think Alou was like 80% owned and Jampy was like 70% owned, and those NIP guys were 10% owned. So if you want that NIP stack, you were in amazing shape on that slate for Saturday. But yeah, Jampy, the price did drop a lot. He has looked good. He's been a little bit up and down. I think he's someone that is okay, but I don't know if I'm going to get to him. So really, I think the only guy I'm really looking at on this end side is Alou there at 8.6K. I don't think we have to get to these value options on the rest of the team. Let's move on to Vitality. Basically, I should say Zywoo. He is one of the best plays of the day at 8.8K. It's just, he's about $1,000 too cheap in my opinion. He should be high 9K range. He's looked really good the last three games. Vitality in general has looked really, really good. So if you want to continue to ride that hot streak, right, I have no issue. I think Zywoo for cash game setting is, again, be very, very popular. I like him a lot. I think he is one of the better plays of the day for sure. Probably a scenario I'll be eating the chalk and playing him. But yeah, I do really like Zywoo here at this price. I think he's one of the best plays of the day. The other options on the team with Apex, Shocks, Mistu, and RPK, all have flashed a little bit of upside. Now, again, they've been winning like 2-0 every game, so these guys have been putting up decent numbers. Right? Apex, we have 93 and 76 his most recent games. Shocks had a big game in there. I think he had 97. RPK has had a decent game in there. He had 71. So you can, the only reason I would target these guys is if I think Vitality wins easily, right, with these value options. If I think they win, like, I don't know, 16-5 or so, then I could see myself pairing Zywoo with one of these value guys. I just think, they might be a little bit over-owned for the recent play, and they're, pretty cheap price points, right? Apex, Shocks, they are pretty cheap. Now, they're very up and down. So it is a little bit hard to trust, and I think they might be a little bit over-owned. But if you think Vitality win this one easily, right, if you think they dominate, then I could see, again, pairing Zywoo with one of these cheaper options. Let's move on to Dignitas versus Mousesports. So Mousesports are the biggest favorites of the day. Again, I don't know if I agree with this one. I think it could go either way, to be honest. Mousesports have just been really, really bad. Lost 0-2 to Complexity, 1-2 to Big, 0-2 to Mad Lions. They did beat OG, but they're about to lose to Navi today. Yeah, they've really, really been struggling. I think they are still the better team here, but it is a little bit hard to trust them right now. So first, let's talk about the Dignitas side. So two guys I think we can cross off right away are Freiburg and Zist. I just don't think we have to do it. They have pretty bad overall numbers, right? 0.6 kills per round, 0.72 deaths per round for Freiburg, Zist at 0.53 and 0.66. So those two guys we can cross off. Now, the good thing about it is, since those guys have not so good numbers, other guys in the team have to kind of pick up the slack. So pick up this slack. So a guy like Halzerk, right? He has pretty decent numbers. 0.73 kills per round, 0.65 deaths per round, and then Force as well, 0.73 and 0.66 deaths per round. These two guys look pretty good for their respective prices. We have them coming in. Halzerk at 8.2, Force at 7.6. Not bad, right? And I think they're going to be just forgotten about on the slate, very overlooked, because if people are just going to look to those odds, they're going to see Mousesports as the biggest favorites of the day. They're going to automatically go to the Mousesports side. I don't know if that's necessarily right. I think this one's almost a 50-50, and these Dignitas guys are going to be a lot lower owned. Again, we have Mousesports has been struggling big time recently. So Halzerk and Force are two guys I like a good amount. If you want to get a little bit different, right? I think, again, Mousesports are going to be chalk, kind of like a Zywoo as well, but you can definitely, take a shot here if this is the way you want to go. I think that's a decent way, right, to get those top two Dignitas guys in your lineup. On the Mousesports side, so the prices do look really appealing. They are very much tempting me to go back to the well, again, with them. They let me down so many times, but again, it is really, really tempting for me to avoid Rops, or to not play Rops and Frozen. Rops at 7.6, Frozen at 7.4K. They're about $1,000 too cheap. Again, if we look at this Mousesports team, we have two guys in Chris J and Kerrigan that don't do a whole lot killing, right? 0.56 and 0.7 for Chris J, kills per round and deaths per round, and Kerrigan 0.56 and 0.75. So those are two guys that are just OBJ players, don't do a whole lot of it in the killing department. But that makes, again, a guy like Rops, a guy like Frozen have to do a lot more. Now, Rops is overall better numbers. At 0.74 kills per round, 0.62 deaths per round, compared to Frozen at 0.68 and 0.66. So I think my favorite play on this Mousesports side would be Rops, but I do like pairing with Frozen, or even Woxic is viable as well. Again, he uses the AWP. He has decent numbers of 0.66 and 0.64. Just in general, this Mousesports team has really, really been struggling, and I think they're going to be popular tomorrow. So, like I said, I think this one could go either way. I like the prices a lot on the Mousesports side. Again, they're very much tempting me to go back to the wall with them. Rops is one of my favorite plays at 7.6K. I think he's going to be really, really popular, like a guy like Zywoo tomorrow. But there are scenarios where he doesn't get you there, right? If they continue to struggle like they have been, you could see the Dignitas just blow them out of the water. I would not be surprised about that either. So right now, again, I think these Mousesports guys look good for their prices, but I think this one could realistically go 50-50. Next game here, we have Ninjas in Pajamas versus Astralis. And again, just thought I'd bring it up, the recency bias, right? I mentioned it in my Saturday video with those NIP guys were all super low owned, and they came out and destroyed Ennis, right? Plopsy had 86, and Nock had a big day as well. Those are the two guys I mentioned at 92. So it is really interesting, the recency bias. People just look at recent games and, they lost 2-0, their two most recent games, I got to avoid them. It's not necessarily the case, right? Like I said, when you play competitive gaming, if you get a couple rounds in a row, you start to gain that confidence, you become a completely different player. So I could see why, I think NIP won those early rounds, they gained confidence, and they just came out and really took it to end. So these two guys, Plopsky and Nock, I like them a good amount if this is the route you want to go. I think Rez is viable as well. Twist and Hampus are probably guys I avoid, but those top three guys, especially Nock and Plopsy, have really flashed upside, in games they win, right? In games they struggle, or in games they lose, right, they're obviously not going to put up big numbers. But in games they win, right, Plopsky can get you into the 80s, and he's 7.2K. Nock has shown he can get you into the 90s when he's playing well, when they're winning. So those are two guys that I think, again, will be a little bit lower owned because they are going up against the Straws, and they are underdogs. But I do like both these guys a good amount as slightly contrarian plays. again, I don't think we have to consider anyone else, or Twist or Hampus. I don't think we have to go there. On the Astrala side, so this is the big question mark for me, is that now they have 2 new players in Yugi and Snappy. I don't know why they have the out symbol next to Snappy, because he's on the roster now, and he's filling in for Zipex, who's taking a little break. So he's the guy that I know he's really cheap, but I think it's just a stay away from me. I don't want to take the shot there. I know very little about him. I've never watched him play. So it's probably a situation I stay away. Yugi at 6.8K, it is interesting. He's been a little bit up and down, but I think he's viable if you want to pair him with one of those top guys. Now, definitely my favorite play here is Device at 9.6K. I think he's a little bit overpriced, but again, with 2 new guys in the team, he's probably going to be asked to do a little bit more in the killing department. And again, he uses the op as well. So I don't mind overpaying for Device. I would much prefer Device to a guy like a Magisk, who is kind of taking in that role of the in-game leader, which they kind of take a step back usually in-game leaders in the killing department. So Magix is a guy I am completely avoiding at that price. I have no interest. Even Dupree's a little overpriced at 8.4K. I mean, he was in the 6K range. I don't know if I feel comfortable with that. Those are 2 guys that are a little bit up and down, inconsistent, whereas Device, he's one of the most consistent players right now in Counter-Strike, putting up really, really good numbers. So I like him a good amount. I know you're probably overpaying for him a little bit, but again, if you want to pair, if you want to go 2 Astrals, it probably for me would be Device and Yugi, just for Yugi being a pretty cheap price point, and then Device, just the consistency, right? So let's move on to the last game here. We have Mad Lions versus Fnatic. Again, this one is almost a pick 'em as well. We have Fnatic, our slight favorites, at -145. Fnatic, again, has been a team that has been struggling as well. They have lost 4 of their last 5 games, and they got 0-2 against FaZe, 0-2 against OG. So, sorry, I thought I was going to sneeze there. This is one where I could see definitely Mad Lions pulling off this upset. Now, it's not a big upset, but I think for their prices, we'll talk about the Mad Lions side first. So Bubsky at 7.8K, should just at 7K. Those look like pretty good prices for the top 2 guys, right? And they have pretty good overall numbers. You have Budgkey sitting at a 0.75 kills per round, 0.66 deaths per round. Again, I mentioned what I like about him is he is a very, very aggressive player. He's always going to chase down kills. I like that. I think that really, he really has a lot of upside. So Josh has good numbers as well, 0.72 and 0.63. Even a guy like a Core, I think, is okay in the slate, right? He's got a 0.68 kills per round, 0.6 deaths per round. He uses the op, and he's 6K. So those are the 3 guys to look to. I don't think we can get I don't think I would consider Cillian or Roge. I know they have had decent games recently, but those would be the 3 guys to look to. Bubsky, Shajush, and then a guy like a Core. Again, 6K. I think that's viable if this is the route you want to go. If you want to go stack those the Mad Lions team, I think he makes some interesting pairing if you want to pair him with either Bubsky or Shajush. And then lastly, we have Fnatic. So this is another team I think is going to be pretty popular. The price points are pretty appealing in these guys. It's just they've really, really been struggling. So Brolon and Crims, I really like for their prices. If this is, again, the route you want to go, if you want to take this Fnatic side, I think the chalk tomorrow is going to be Zywoo, Rops, Device, and probably one of these Fnatic guys. Again, those are all the favorites, so I just feel like that a lot of those guys are going to be very, very popular. Brolon is about $500 to $1,000 too cheap. I like that price on him a lot, 8K. Another player that is very, very aggressive. Again, he's got decent numbers, 0.73 and 0.67. Crims, the other guy I mentioned, he has looked good recently, 0.69 kills per round, 0.64 deaths per round. So those are the 2 guys to look to. Flusha can have good games as well, but I would much prefer Brolon for a little bit more, or Crims for a little bit less. JW at 6.6, I think is priced about right. I liked him when he was in the low 6K range. He just seems, again, priced right. He uses the op, which is a plus. Him and a Core are very similar plays to me, honestly. It's just do you want to go the Fnatic side or do you want to go the Mad Lions side? I think both those guys are interesting for value, right? It just depends which way you want to go. Now we've recently, again, had a lot of 3-game slates, so the popular build for GPPs has been 2-2-2 or a 3-2-1. Now we have 4 games, right? So this makes it a little bit different as far as roster construction goes. I think probably like a 2-2-1-1 is going to be pretty popular. Now, I think you can, again, target players on both sides of the game if you think it stays close, right? It's all about how you think the slate pans out. If you think one of these teams is going to dominate and win easily, then yeah, you can get 2 or maybe even 3 from that team, right? They're going to put up big numbers if they win easily, right? So it's all about how do you think the slate goes. If you think, say this Mad Lions versus Fnatic game, if you think it goes maybe to overtime, then sure, or like a really close game, like a 16-14, something like that, then sure, I can see, pairing a guy like Broline with Bubsy on the other side, right? I think that is viable. And again, these are all best of 1, so these games are going to be quick, and like I said, that kind of does hurt the value plays because we don't have that opportunity for a 2-0 bonus. So those really cheap guys, it makes it a little bit more risky to target on this slate. Let's talk about captains now. So for cash games, these are the guys I would consider for cash games. For captain, it would be Device, Zywoo, Rops, and then those Fnatic guys, either Crims or Broline. Those would be the guys to look to for cash games. Again, they're all favorites, so if you're building a cash game lineup, that's the way you probably go. But all these games, again, are relatively close if we're just looking at the odds. So sure, you can really differentiate yourself in tournaments, right? So normally, my GPP build is I like to play a lot of the chalk and then differentiate myself in 1 or 2 ways, right? So I haven't really messed around too much with roster construction, but I am probably going to play, a couple of chalky guys, right? Like a guy like Device. Again, those guys I mentioned, Device, Zywoo, Rops, and those Fnatic guys, they're going to be chalky or they're going to be popular, but for good reason, right? They're all really good plays. So I'll probably, play at least a couple of those guys, and then maybe I'll take a stand on one of these underdogs, right? And kind of differentiate yourself, right? Whether it's NIP or Dignitas or Mad Lions, right? So that's the way I usually go for GPPs, right? I still play a lot of the chalk. Chalk is chalk for a reason, but I like to differentiate myself in 1 or 2 spots. So that's probably how I'm going to go about it for roster construction. Again, it's a 4-game slate, so I think anything really is on the table. Again, if you think a team dominates, like wins really easily, then you could go like a full 3-man stack. But I think, a popular build is probably going to be like a 2-2-1-1, or you could even honestly run like a 2-1-1-1, right? So I think those are all interesting builds. And since, again, it's a 4-game slate and they're best of 1s, it's going to be interesting to see how kind of roster construction works and how ownership works. Again, I think a lot of the favorites are going to be very popular. Again, Zywoo I mentioned, Rops, Device, and probably Broline or Crims are going to be pretty popular. But yeah, I think that is going to do it for the video, guys. So if you have been enjoying the content so far, I really appreciate it if you'd like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell. We're at 3.26 thousand subscribers, so really do appreciate all of the support. Hope you guys are all staying safe and healthy in these crazy times, and I will see you all in the next video, which will be right after this for my breakdown of the CSGO late slate on Monday.